Hello, my name is David Mackey from Ohana Junior Senior High School. I'm doing OO with the topic of juveniles tried as adults. Let me just say, when I was 12 years old, I was not doing anything illegal. To be clear, I'm still not doing anything illegal at the age of 15. However, that is not the case for everyone. Even in my own community, you will see little kids doing stupid things like stealing toys from stores or throwing fireworks at elderly. In Colorado, the law requires a child to be at least 12 years old to be tried as an adult in court. Do you think this law should stand as is or be adjusted in some way? When a child sees a nice toy, of course they would want it, correct? A child in a healthy home will do the obvious thing. Go ask their parents to buy them the toy. Whether the parent says yes or no, that's besides the point because the child is in a nice, healthy home. The child will be upset, but this child also knows better than to do anything illegal like steal the toy without the parents noticing. Not all children live in healthy homes, unfortunately. A child in an unhealthy home is an innocent child for so long. It stays that way until something dramatic happens in their life, like them getting abused or the child having a loved one who's nice to them pass away. When this occurs, the child has nothing left. They become unhappy and begin to act out. It starts little with becoming late or coming home from school late because they don't care. It then turns into beginning not to care what their parents tell them to do and talking back to them. With this, the parents not being good, loving parents will start to be more abusive or just become worse overall. For example, giving the kids less food because they aren't being treated the same way or being respected anymore. With this, the kids become worse and worse from them being late to just not even showing up and doing stupid things. They'll be rude and abusive to other people because that's all they know. The more times they succeed, they will act out by it only gets worse and worse the more times they succeed. They will act out by my computer crashed. They'll act out by burning things or being destructive to others' properties. You begin to think, where does it stop? Well, it doesn't until the cops finally catch them. Even then, if the cops let them off with a swat on the wrist or something that doesn't really show them what they're doing is wrong, they will continue. It isn't until the cops really catch them doing something wrong, like drugs or stealing high-ticket items like phones. When this happens, the cops have no other options besides putting them in court because at that point, they're really doing bad things. Relating back to this Colorado law, you may think who is really to blame in this situation, the parents or the kids. This will be evaluated and decided on by social services. If they determine it is the parents' fault and the kids ultimately still have to pay for it, but the parents will too. The child's actions are their own and it's nobody else's fault they did what they did. You may think it really isn't their fault because they were raised in an unhealthy environment and they didn't get the opportunity to know anything besides abuse in an unhealthy environment. It is unfortunate that kids in unhealthy homes has to pay the price at the end of the day because they aren't left enough to know what's wrong and right. That is why I say this law needs to be reevaluated and that kids should be evaluated before deciding who the punishment should be placed upon. If the child is, say, the age of 15 and is doing things like destroying property and stealing things, their home should be evaluated. Home and family should be evaluated. They should be evaluated by social service professionals, and they need to determine if the kid is in a toxic environment. Since the child is 15, they are ultimately their own person, and they should know what's wrong from right. At the age of 15, they are in high school and can make their own decisions. If the environment is determined to be toxic, the child shouldn't be held responsible for the majority of the charges. The child should be given a healthy home and environment while getting help they need from a therapist. If the child is to have more offenses against him or her after being provided with a healthy home and environment, they should be held accountable with all blame being on them. I suggest enacting a two-step law, and the first set of offenses should be put on the parents if social services deems it that the child was in a toxic environment and didn't know better. To ensure proper turnout on this evaluation by social services, the worker cannot have any personal connections and have very limited connections with them at all any. After the first set of offenses are settled and the parents are deemed guilty by social service workers, the social service worker will present the facts found in evaluation in court. With this, the judge will sentence them to prison time and or fines based upon severity. At very minimum, the parents must pay for the child's adoption and placement into a healthy home while going to therapy. If more offenses continue to happen 9 months after the relocation of the child into a healthy home and environment, then the offenses will be held on the kid. If offenses continue before the 9-month time period, officers are only to give warnings and small punishments based upon severity. After 9 months, all offenses are to be treated in full on the child. Now back to that present law that states in Colorado that children can only be tried as adults at the age of 12. We would not repeal this law, only change the age from 12 to 15. I say this because at the age of 12, they are barely out of middle school and they are barely making their own decisions. If a child in the 5th grade were to be tried as an adult, there are a lot of problems with that. This law does not take into account the child's environment and the fact that they are barely becoming their own person. These two laws will work hand in hand in that offenses after the age of 15 will be tried as adult offenses. The law that we will enact will be deemed before the current law, in that if social services deems the environment toxic, all of the first offenses made before the relocation are punishable on the parents. If the child is, say, 13 but deemed guilty after the relocation of the new law, they'll only be treated as a child. 15 is the perfect age because even as stated by connectusfund.org, the severity of a crime that a juvenile commits typically increases as they get older. People could possibly say that having children above the age of 15 tried as adults is a problem because of the fact, if found guilty, this could stunt possibilities of getting their future set up. By this, I mean that people can make the point they won't be able to get into colleges or get good jobs. To this I reply, at the age of 15, you are seeking independence, even if it's something small like a closed door in your house to get privacy. At the age of 15, you are making your own decisions, and ultimately, if you don't want to do something, or if you do want to do something, you will or will not. You don't have to listen to your parents. It's around this age that teens become rebellious and start making their own decisions. So if you're telling me a 15-year-old that decides to do something illegal like drink alcohol, yes, I believe they should suffer the consequences. They're making their own decisions and they decide what they do and don't do. There still are opportunities for them, including basic jobs that are needing help that need help constantly, like fast food. You can always go to a local community college. This provides them with money and education they could build back their resume with if they seek to get a good education and at a university or have a good job at a big company. In the end, being tried as an adult can help them get straight and become better people. They might realize what they're doing is wrong and they will set up a future for themselves with basic junior colleges and jobs in the fast food industry. When you look back on why I say they should be tried as adults, it's rather obvious, and that's because of the fact it was their own choices, and even after punishments, they have opportunities to build back their life. Thank you.